Now, in this second part of e-learning session of plant embryology, in which we were discussing about apomixis. In the previous lecture, we discussed about various types of apomixis that are found in plants. We discussed first type of apomixis, that was parthenogenesis. Now today in this lecture we will be discussing about other types of apomixis. First of all, let's start with apogamy. Apogamy term was coined by Winkler in 1908. In this, the embryo develops from either synergid or the antipodal cells of embryo sac. We all know very well that an embryo sac has an egg, two synergids, polar nuclei and antipodals. Now this egg cell, it makes normal embryo after fertilization, whereas the synergids and antipodals, they normally degenerate before or after the entry of pollen tube. They do not take part in embryo formation, but sometimes it happens that either of these synergids or both of these synergids and these antipodals, they participate in embryo formation, and this is known as apogamy. Now the embryos formed by this method can be X or 2X in nature, haploid or diploid in nature. It has been reported in plants like allium, iris. Now, differentiating haploid and diploid type of apogamy. In haploid, the embryo develops from the haploid synergid or antipodal cells, whereas the diploid apogametics, they develop from the diploid synergid or diploid antipodals. Normally, all the cells in embryo sac, they are X in nature, but sometimes the initial cell fails to divide by meiosis, due to which all the cells that are being produced inside the embryo sac, they remain diploid in nature. Thereby, each and every cell of the embryo sac exhibits diploid nature. Thus, the embryos formed from these diploid cells, they make diploid apogamies, whereas the embryos formed from X, that is those embryos which develop from the X synergids or antipodals, are called haploid apogametics. Out of this haploid and diploid apogamy, the diploid one is used in or useful in conserving heterosis. Now coming to another type of apomixis, that is known as apospory. Now the term apospory was given by De Waring and Bover in 1886. Now, what happens in this process? We all know that the embryo sac is present in ovule, which is surrounded by integument. So, with the formation of embryo from the egg cell, any other cell of the nucellus, it activates and it develops into an embryo sac. This is what apospory is. The development of embryo sac from the cells of nucellar tissue outside this normal embryo sac. So in apospory, along with this normal embryo sac, another embryo sac may be produced from nucellus, it may be from integument, it may be from any cell of the archisporium. It is the most frequent type of apomixis that is found in plants. The apospory can be of two types: somatic apospory and generative apospory. When the embryo develops from embryo sac that originated from either nucellus or integument, then we call it as somatic type of apospory, and it is reported in Malus, Rubus, Allium, Crepis, Poa, Opuntia. Whereas in generative, the embryo develops from the embryo sac that has originated from the archisporium. And very common example of this is Parthenium. So now these additional embryos, they compete with the normal embryo for their development. For example, in Allium, along with a normal embryo sac, there is additional embryo sac or aposporic embryo sac which has one egg, two synergids and two antipodals, two polar nuclei and three antipodals. This additional aposporic embryo sac has got one egg, two synergids, two polar nuclei and three antipodals. Now this was the case with Allium. In some other grasses, there are many aposporic embryo sacs which are 4 nucleate, having one egg, one synergid and two polar nuclei. Now these embryo sacs, they compete with the normal embryo sac for their development, and sometimes the normal embryo degenerates and they succeed in development. For development of aposporic type of embryo sacs, pollen stimulus may be required. Now coming to next type of apomixis, which is known as adventive embryony. Now in this type, the gametophytic cycle is completely eliminated. The gametophytic cycle is not found, and the cells of the nucellus and integument nucellus and integument, they form embryo directly. This is known as adventive embryony. It was first of all given by Strasburger in 1878. Now, the embryos formed by this type of method, they are always diploid in nature, from integument or from nucellus. In apospory, there was formation of embryo sacs. Here in this case, there is no additional embryo sac formation. That adventive embryony is a type of sporophytic budding. It's a type of sporophytic budding, and it has been mostly reported in case of citrus. Some more technical terms that we use in apomixis: recurrent and non-recurrent apomixis. The recurrent is also known as gametophytic apomixis. And what happens in recurrent? The apomictic lines are obtained from one generation to another. These are always fertile and they have diploid chromosomal number. The recurrent apomixis can be of three types. Diploid parthenogenesis, diploid apogamy, and apospory. Now, coming to the non-recurrent apomixis, in this, the apomictic lines are not obtained from one generation to another, and that is why it is named as non-recurrent apomixis. The plants produced by this are X in nature and are sterile. Non-recurrent can be of two types: haploid parthenogenesis and haploid apogamy. These non-recurrent apomictic lines are used in the development of inbred lines. Now, next, difference between obligate and facultative apomix. Obligate, in which the plants reproduce by means of apomixis only. These are known as obligate apomix, whereas the facultative, in which along with sexual, the apomictic development of seeds takes place. In obligate, the progeny is uniform and it is identical to the mother plant. Whereas in facultative, the progeny is heterogeneous in nature and it is reported in plants like sorghum. Now, how can we induce apomixis? So here are some of the methods by which apomixis can be induced. First, by low temperature treatments. to the ovule by pollinating with X-ray treated pollens. By treatment with certain chemicals like Belviton, by stimulation of widely related pollen grains, or by the use of foreign pollen. So here are some of the ways by which we can induce apomixis. Now in the last, let's discuss about the advantages of apomixis. By this method, we can develop pure lines, we can maintain purity, the heterosis remains conserved, the hybrid seed production becomes easy, the hybrid seeds that we get are much cheaper, it becomes very easy to handle apomictic lines since there is no chance of crossing. They do not need any isolation, there is no risk of outcrossing, no segregation, and thus because of these apomictic lines, they are very useful to the farmers. After going through all these advantages, there are certain limitations also, like there is genetic diversity is very low in case of apomix. The selection becomes ineffective. These are obtained in low frequency and thus are available in limited crop plants. The main problem is with facultative apomix, in which the apomatic plants they struggle with the normal sexual reproduction and they have an adverse effect on the normal seed industry, which thereby affects the farmers. And last not the least, now coming to some of the important reasons for the apomixis. First, the plants which are hybrids or polyploids show more tendency towards apomixis. So hybridization or polyploidy may be a reason for the induction of apomixis genes. Here we will consider an example of Parthenium, in which apomixis is controlled by 3 pairs of recessive genes, AA, small bb and small cc. Small AA, which is responsible for failure of meiosis. Meiosis doesn't take place. Small bb, which checks fertilization, and C, which is responsible for the apomictic development of embryo. So these are some of the reasons that are being given for the apomictic development. Thank you.